If you've been paying attention recently, it's pretty obvious that disclosure is about to happen. In fact, the argument could be made that we are in a disclosure right now. There's a hard disclosure, there's soft disclosure, and there's catastrophic disclosure. And what we're referring to here is the disclosure that UFOs are real, that alien beings have been interacting with mankind. Not only that, but that the government itself is in contact with, has been working with, and has recovered this technology. Now, here's where things get a little bit dark, because everybody on Earth, if this disclosure does happen, everybody on Earth is about to be lied to. And make no mistake about it, they're going to love it. People have been pushing for this disclosure event to happen for a very long time. But there's something important that we must talk about, because this whole disclosure event that people are asking for, well, they really don't know what they're asking for, because this is a classic case of be careful what you wish for. That word, disclosure, the word that you've probably heard a million times. The UFO community has been chasing it for 70 years now? Governments have been hiding it. Whistleblowers have died for it. The whole thing, the whole world is demanding, basically, we must have disclosure right now. Everybody's demanding it. UFO researchers, ufologists, Congress, the people in general, they're demanding disclosure. They're saying, who are you to hide this from us? But here's what everybody's missing. So, disclosure, what does it mean? It means the great unveiling, the moment that the truth finally comes out. It sounds awesome, right? Except it isn't. So there's a Greek word for this. It's apocalypsis. Yes, apocalypsis. It means the same thing. To uncover, to reveal what's hidden. But you know that word. You really do. Even if you've never heard that word before, apocalypsis, well, you still have heard the English version of it before, because most people know what it is. Most people have heard it. So what is the English version of apocalypsis, which is the Greek version of disclosure? You ready for this? Revelation. Disclosure and revelation are the same word. Not similar, not related. It's the same word in different languages, which means when you think about this, that the book of Revelation, the last book in the Bible, the one that describes the end of the world and the return of Jesus Christ, could also be called the book of disclosure. Think about that for a minute. Do you think that's an accident? Do you think that it's an accident that the whole world is pushing for disclosure at the very time when the book of Revelation, the book of disclosure, looks like it's about to start heating up? It looks like these events that have been foretold in the book of Revelation are actually going to come to pass. Maybe soon. Who knows? But all the prerequisites required for the book of Revelation to unfold are either happening right now or have already happened. So the entire planet is pushing for this, not knowing what it's going to bring. I mean, the people who are pushing for disclosure, if they realize that when you're pushing for disclosure, you're pushing for the book of Revelation to be opened, for the horsemen to ride, well, they're going to regret that they ever wanted disclosure to happen in the first place, because this book does not describe a happy time. I mean, think about this. The event, the disclosure event that the entire world is pushing for, well, there's a book named after it, the book of Revelations, that's been sitting for 2,000 years. And what's inside describes what shows up when the curtain does get pulled back, describes what happens when disclosure is actually made. And it describes what the cost of that is. And it also describes who falls for this deception, for this disclosure, which, by the way, is the greatest deception in the history of mankind. Everybody's going to fall for it. Everybody, except for a small remnant of people. Now, there's no secret. The UFO community wants disclosure. The general public wants disclosure. But when you look into the book of disclosure, the book of Revelation, well, most people aren't reading it. Why? Because it's too scary for them. It's dark, it's scary. We don't want that scariness. Well, it's only scary for the people who are on the wrong side of things, because make no mistake about it. There's a right side and there's a wrong side. And if you're on the wrong side, well, yeah, it is scary. But if you're on the right side, it's kind of, it's scary, but in a way, it's scary, but it's also in a way exciting, because you know how it ends. Now, I know what you're thinking, but before we get into this, let's talk about some of the very interesting updates and developments that are happening right now in the field of ufology and on the subject of disclosure itself. Did you see what Trump just said? Trump just posted this on Truth Social yesterday. I'm going to read it to you. Quote, "Based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomenon, and unidentified flying objects, and any and all information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters." End quote. The President of the United States just ordered the Pentagon to release everything. This is disclosure, folks. It's happening. All right? And this whole situation is a lot deeper than this recent post on Truth Social Trump just gave. He's been talking about this for a while, and other people around him have been talking about how he is ready to make a statement. And we've been covering this too. I've made a video a few months ago saying that Trump is positioning himself to be the disclosure president. It's all about his legacy. It's all about his destiny. He knows he's tainted with the Epstein files release. He knows he's tainted in the eyes of the mainstream media. He knows that everything he does, everything that he did, and everything that he will do will be scrutinized in a way that he can't avoid. It's going to be compared against Epstein. He's going to be called an extremist, you know, how the mainstream media likes to put him. But he doesn't want that. Trump wants to be known as the greatest president who has ever lived. So how does he do that? Well, think about it. How do you distract from the Epstein files permanently? How do you make it so that Epstein is just a piece of history, a side note? You say aliens are real. You say UFOs are real. You say we've been collecting these UFO craft and bodies for 50, 60, 70 years. That's what you say publicly. And what happens? Well, the public will shift their attention from Epstein to this new topic. And this doesn't even take into account any of the geopolitical moves that are being made as far as war, World War III, countries, Greenland, you know, all these things, Iran. That's all a side note. And I think it all factors into this whole thing. So I think I'm moving a little bit too far. So let's back up a little bit. A few days before Trump posted that on Truth Social, guess what? I don't know if you've heard about this, but Obama, he went on a podcast and the podcaster was like, "Are aliens real?" He said, "Yes, aliens are real."
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51.
A few days later, he goes on to say, he walks back the comment, right? He says, "Oh, well, I didn't mean aliens are real in a real sense. I meant that they're real as far as we can theorize that they're real. Give me a break." He said it. He wasn't supposed to say it, and he got in trouble for saying it. His deep state handlers were like, "Dude, we didn't tell you to say that. Why do you say that? You better go online right now and walk back that comment." And he tried to, but people aren't buying it. And then Trump was saying that what Obama said was a big mistake because he's giving out classified information. Check out this clip.
Barack Obama said that aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. You know.
So aliens are real.
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. No, I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. Do you believe it, Peter?
The president can declassify anything that he wants to.
Well,
so if you want to make an announcement,
I may get him out of trouble by declassifying.
we know.
So things are starting to heat up, but that's not it, right? We mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So Trump's daughter-in-law goes on a podcast and said that there's a speech waiting. She's waiting for the right time. Now, this is important, the right time, because we're going to get into what that actually means in a little bit. But she's saying that Trump prepared a speech on disclosure, and he's going to give it at the right time. And then you have Trump's director of national intelligence, who's like the head of 18 different spy agencies or something like that. And then you have the vice president who said he's obsessed with UFOs, which is pretty concerning considering that he's supposed to be a Christian man. Why would a Christian man be obsessed with UFOs, which are in fact fallen angels and demonic and evil? No question about that, right? Because UFOs aren't something to be obsessed with. They're something to be concerned about. They're not something to be, if you saw a UFO, oh my goodness, look, there's a UFO. Everybody look and stare. No. If you saw a UFO, what you should do is be like, Get behind me, Satan. And that thing will obey you because, well, let's just say you are higher in the pecking order than that piece of crap is, all right? And yes, UFOs are pieces of crap. Anyway, all right. So everybody wants this, though. Everybody, all the mainstream people, they want disclosure. They think it's such a big deal. They're pushing for it. They think it's going to change the world. Humanity is going to unite under this new banner of, we are now a galactic civilization. We better stop fighting wars. We better stop killing each other because we are now part of this whole, this whole civilization of the stars. We don't want our alien brothers to look at us like we're some degenerates who like to kill each other, right? They have this whole romanticized view about it, but it's not romantic. In the book of Revelation, the book of disclosure, it has a specific name for what happens when the door is actually opened. What is it called? It's called the Great Deception. Not a small one, not some tiny miniature deception that people are like mini deceived. No, the Great Deception. This is a trick that everybody's going to fall for, like 99% of the people. Great deception, right? The most successful lie ever told in the history of humanity. And you better believe it's not going to look like a lie. People aren't going to see this and be like, oh, look, it's a lie, because then it wouldn't be a great deception. In order for it to actually be a deception, the Great Deception, it must be presented in a way that most people, the majority, the overwhelming majority of people, take it as truth, that they believe it, that they not only believe it, but it's such a strong thing. It's such a revelation that it actually changes who they are, what they believe, and, the way that they see the world going forward, because that's the only way the Great Deception will work. It has to be a complete and total reimagining of people's, worldviews. And that's what this thing is poised to do. Now, I see this thing happening, and I'm talking about disclosure here. I see it happening kind of gradually. Now, I see it as like a 3-stage disclosure. Stage 1, they're going to confirm that, yes, the craft are real. We have bodies, but we haven't made contact with them. We don't know who they are. And, people are going to take that and they're going to say, okay, we have these bodies, they're real. We have these craft, they're real, but we don't know who they are. So it's going to leave it kind of open-ended. It's going to leave people wanting more. It's going to leave people curious. And it's going to leave people searching for answers. But this stuff isn't new. We know this is real. We know they have craft. We know they have bodies. And we also know that they made contact. So we know that's a lie. So stage 1 is how I believe this thing is going to unplay. At first, yes, they're going to tell us that they have these things. But stage 1 doesn't stay stage 1 for long, because once you confirm the fact that it's real, you can't dodge the next question. And that is the obvious question, right? Who built them? Who's piloting them? And that's where stage 2 comes in. Contact, communication. Stage 2 is when they admit that, yes, we've been communicating with them, someone or something. They have been here and they still are here. But stage 2, it's not going to last for very long, because then we're going to move into the final stage of disclosure. And then you have stage 3. And now, don't get me wrong, stage 3 could be the first stage. But the way I see it, they're going to slowly introduce it. They're going to desensitize people to it. They're going to stage 1, they're going to say, here's the craft. Stage 2, they're going to say, okay, we figured out who's piloting them. And stage 3, they're going to say, you know what? We actually have been talking to these people. We have made contact with these people. And these people they're our space brothers. They're actually, they're positive people. They're benevolent. They want nothing more than to help humanity move on to the next phase of evolution. And they're here to help. Okay? We've actually given them a partnership. We've actually partnered with them, and we have for a long time. They've been dictating certain things to us for a long time, and we've been letting them. They actually have some authority. We've given them authority, and we've given them authority over you. So that's it, right? Stage 1 will be, craft and body. Stage 2 will be like, all right, communication. Stage 3 will be like, there's a partnership. These things are here. We've been working with them, and now you must bow down to them, because they are now your authority figures, okay? And this is the point where, dissents, talking bad about them. And guys, real quick, this is the part where it's going to get sketchy for everybody like me who's talking negative about these things. Because once these things are introduced as people, as space brothers, as people from other planets, as benevolent, entities that they're just regular people, they're just smarter than us, then you better believe there'll be laws passed that forbids regular people like me from talking bad about them. It's going to be hate speech, all this stuff. It's going to be like, well, you're racist because you're talking bad about your space brothers. These people want nothing more than to help you, and here you are disparaging them. Like, what's wrong with you? That's what they're going to say. But that's where the deception lies, because these are not our space brothers. They're our eternal enemies, and I'm going to prove it in this video. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I want to mention this because there was a senior analyst, I believe it was at the Bank of England, which, by the way, has really deep connections to the Rothschild family. And if you want to connect the Bank of England to the Rothschilds, to the whole UFO disclosure, I think there is a line there. There is a thread that connects. And it doesn't surprise me one bit that the Bank of England came out with this memo. If you heard about this memo? So this memo came out saying that if or when disclosure happens, it's going to be a collapse. The markets are going to collapse. It's going to be, I think she called it like an ontological shock. And there's going to be like a financial bloodbath. And, she's right about the shock, but she's wrong about what causes it. And yeah, there will be a collapse of the economy. There will be a collapse of the stock markets, but it depends on which stage of disclosure gets introduced first. I think if Trump comes out and is like, hey, UFOs are real. We have the craft right here, and we've collected some bodies. The whole Roswell thing is legit. I don't think that the stock market will crash right away. I think certain companies like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, those companies, these defense contractors, companies like Palantir, NVIDIA, I think these AI companies and these defense contractor companies, I think their stocks will surge because people are going to expect them to put all the, technology that Earth has to offer into solving this singular problem. But I think when we get to stage 3, where it's admitted that these entities are not only real, but they've been interacting with us, not only interacting with us, but basically running things from behind the scenes, or at least working with the governments, I think that's when things are going to get crazy, because then people are going to say, wait a minute. So you're saying that the last 80 years of our world is all just a lie? It's all just theater? It's all just propped up to make us, go to work and pay our bills and all this stuff, when in fact it was just a lie the whole time? You've been lying to us? People are probably going to, that's when, everything will collapse, in my opinion. But this collapse isn't just about people freaking out, taking all their money, having bank runs. No, this collapse is engineered because they have to collapse the old system. They have to burn it all down in order to build something new. So, and they have to, right? The book of Revelation, the book of disclosure, it talks about this. It talks about there's going to be a fire, not a literal fire, but it's going to be like a cleansing fire that cleanses everything from the old world. It destroys it. And they built a new system. They're going to build a new system using the tools, using all the things that are already on Earth right now. They're going to build this new system, and it's called the Beast System. And this Beast System has one goal. One goal. That's it. That's to keep you controlled. Okay. And actually, I should say 2 goals: to keep you controlled and to keep people away from Christ, because that's the most important thing. Because once this Beast System is built, once it's actually implemented and it becomes like the actual system, well, everybody knows that that's when the time is, the countdown starts, right? There's going to be a clock, the tick-tock, okay? That's when the countdown starts to the return. The return of what? Well, the return of the king. And I'm not talking about Lord of the Rings here, all right? Now, I want you to think about this for a second, because when this event happens, it doesn't matter if it's stage 1, 2, or 3. When the announcement is made, when disclosure is actually occurring in real time, everybody's going to be distracted on this singular story, right? All the world's attention is going to be focused on this one thing. And what happens when everybody's focused on one singular thing? Tell me, because you should know. Easy. When everybody's focused on one thing, that's when it's called the flanking maneuver. They flank us, right? They come around our backside because everybody's focused here. They come around back and they start doing things that people don't notice. Like what? Well, they start deploying these AI systems. They start deploying these monetary systems. They start preparing for their arrival, for their integration into society. I mean, think about it. We have AI systems that can track every single person and every single interaction and every single transaction on Earth. They're just not implemented worldwide yet. Okay, they're just waiting. They're waiting for what? Well, in my opinion, they're waiting for this event to deploy these systems. And nobody's connecting these 2 things yet. They're not connecting disclosure and the Beast System. They're not connecting AI and disclosure. They're not connecting all of these things because they see it as kind of separate, but it's not. Once the aliens come, once disclosure happens, that's when the beast system becomes solidified. Because they're already building it right now. There's no question about that. They're building the beast system and they're kind of getting all the pieces ready. So all it takes is, the flick of a switch and it's in place. It's deployed and we are all subjugated. So yeah, this door is opening and the whole world is cheering. Hey, disclosure, we want disclosure. But they don't know what they're asking for. Because that door, this disclosure door, it's been opened before. Actually, many times. And it's never ended well. In fact, the last time it happened, like it's happening now, what happened? The entire world was destroyed. And yes, I'm talking about the flood of Noah. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let's back up just a little bit. For about 70 years now, people all over the world have been describing a visitor. The same visitor. They didn't know each other. They've never compared notes. And the description of this visitor, it never changes. So what is the description of this visitor? Well, first off, they're tall. Most people give them, put them in the 6 to 7 foot range. They have blonde hair, and not just like blonde hair, like a human blonde hair, but like platinum blonde hair, like almost white, but not really white. But sometimes people say it has like a glow about it, right? Blue eyes, but not just regular blue eyes, like shining blue eyes, almost like their eyes are glowing, but not like a overt glow, like a subtle glow. Like there's something in there that's different. Skin that's so white, but it's not like human white. It's like not even like a porcelain white, but some sort of like a faint glow to it, right? It's shining almost. So these beings, right, that's what their physical attributes are. And a lot of times they're also described as being, calm, really warm, loving. And they look at you like they know you. When they see you, they know everything about you just by looking at you. And all the accounts of these beings, of these creatures, of these visitors, they have the same aura about them. They're talked about as being benevolent, telepathic, paternal, concerned about the future of humanity. They offer people wisdom. They teach stuff to people. They offer this sense of spirituality. They make themselves out to be these ultimate spiritual beings. And a lot of times they're aligning themselves with New Age theology. In fact, they make it a point to disparage the Bible and to talk negatively about Christ, saying that Christ wasn't special. Christ was one of us. And we sent him. So if you want to worship Christ, you worship us instead because Christ is just us. That's a common thread that goes through a lot of these encounters. So these beings, researchers, they call them the Nordics. I've talked about this before. The Nordics. They're also called the Galactic Federation of Light. They're also called the Ashtar Command. They're called the Tall Whites. They have different names, but it's the same beings. So I think it was in the 1950s, there was a man named George Adamski. He called them Space Brothers. In 1975, Travis Walton, the famous Fire in the Sky, he was abducted by aliens through some crazy, accident or whatever. But he reported them working with the Greys on this ship. He reported the Greys being the ones that were doing the busy work, almost like the Greys were like soulless, like they were just robots. And the real one in control was this tall, blonde figure that looked like a human, just a little bit more shiny, all right, like a shiny human. And guys, that's not all. There are many ancient cultures around the world who have these depictions of these white-skinned, luminous beings who came to Earth or came to their civilization, arrived randomly, and gave them knowledge, gave them information, gave them knowledge of the stars, of the heavens, knowledge of spiritual matters, knowledge of technology. This is a common motif that runs through civilization itself. And it's always the same beings. The description is always very similar. It might not be exactly the same, but it's very similar. And this is the thread that connects ancient times to right now, disclosure to the angels, to the fallen angels themselves. Because when you actually look at this, when you actually study the accounts, it's clear that these beings, these tall whites, these Nordics, they are the fallen angels. They are specifically the fallen angels that rebelled against God. They're specifically the fallen angels that did these terrible things in the days of Noah. And they are specifically the fallen angels that are returning for Days of Noah Part 2. Now think about this. What's happening right now in our world, disclosure, happened before. So when Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, well, what happened in the days of Noah? These beings came down. These Nordics, these tall whites, these entities that people nowadays think they're aliens, but these same beings came down and interacted with humanity, gave them knowledge, did some crossbreeding, messed with the DNA, created these beings on Earth that were never supposed to be created in the first place, and they corrupted the whole Earth. So the Lord actually destroyed the Earth for it, right? And here we have it happening again, except the beings aren't out in the open yet. Okay, so the days of Noah are coming. They're here in a way, but they're not. It's not like fully here yet, because once these beings are like overtly out in the public, once they're here, once people are interacting with them, or once they're interacting with us as a species again, that's the days of Noah coming full circle, because days of Noah started. That's the days of Noah coming back full circle. And that's exactly what the book of Revelation is describing, in my opinion. 2,000 years ago, when John of Patmos wrote the book of Revelation, there was no concept of nobody on earth can buy or sell without this mark. I don't want to say ridiculous, but it seemed so far-fetched that, how people wonder, how could this even happen? Well, now we have crypto, we have decentralized digital currencies, and we have this global system, this global AI system, this global AI control grid that is in place right now, but it's just not deployed fully yet. And I believe they're waiting for this moment. They're waiting for an excuse to deploy it. They're waiting for an excuse to get everybody on Earth under the same banner, to get everybody on Earth working together for the same goals. And there's no better way to do that than with some sort of either alien threat or alien brother. But no matter how they swing this thing, it's going to happen the same way. Because people think they're fighting for the truth. They think that once these files are opened up to humanity, well, then people are going to wake up, that we're going to move out of this stage that we're in where we have to, live our lives to pay the bills. They're going to move from that to something else, to a more, glorified humanity where we can focus on loving other people and doing the right thing rather than just keeping our head above water. But that's the distraction. And that's the lie that they're trying to tell you. So the UFO community as a whole, are being used. They're being used by the other side, by the entities who want to come through to this side. They're framing themselves as the saviors of humanity when in fact they're the ones who are going to be enslaving you. Because once that door is open, it's going to be catastrophic for society. And I hate to break it to you, but there's somebody waiting behind that door. And the whole world as a whole, when that door is open, they're going to fall in love with him. They really are. They're going to fall in love with him. They're going to embrace him, and they're going to follow him. They're going to drop everything and follow him in kind of a twisted, perverted way of how people follow Jesus, because everything that the enemy does is an inversion of the truth. It's an inversion of Jesus. So when Jesus came, people dropped everything to follow him. Well, when this man comes, when this door is open and this new man comes on the face of the earth and presents himself to people, well, people are going to drop everything to follow him as well, because that's what this whole thing is. It's a trick. People are going to follow him instead of Christ, because he's going to be in place of Christ. He's going to be seen as the new Christ. They're going to say, well, the old Christ is irrelevant. This is the new Christ. You have to follow him. And some people might be saying, well, how do you go from UFO disclosure to a man? Well, this is what the book of Revelation talks about. The book of Revelation talks about a man who's going to come on the scene, who's going to take control of the entire world, who's going to be loved by the entire world, worshipped, loved, venerated. People are going to see this man performing miracles live on TV. They're going to follow him. Most people are going to follow him. And look, I don't care if you believe a word of this book or not, the book of Revelation. I don't care, because it's going to happen whether or not you believe it. Just read it, because the book of disclosure, like we just talked about, the book of Revelation, it does talk about a man who's coming on the earth who will be the leader. Everybody's going to love him, every nation, every country, it doesn't matter, every language. People are going to willingly and joyfully give their lives over to him. And guys, this isn't going to be a dictator. It's not going to be some evil man that is depicted like you see in the movies, some guy who's like totally evil and everybody knows he's evil, but they can't do anything about it. No, he's going to be loved. Like I said, he's not a dictator. He's not a conqueror. This man will be the most loved person the world has ever seen. The world's going to follow him, not because they fear him, but because they believe he is the answer. And I do believe that this man is connected to UFO disclosure. I do believe this man will either come out of a UFO or claim to come from a distant star, claim to be even possessed or inhabited by a spirit from a distant star. It's either going to be a human who's possessed by a spirit that comes from one of these UFOs, or it's going to be a direct entity that walks out of a UFO, and I'm saying it's going to be one of these Nordics. It's going to be one of the shining ones. It's going to be one of these fallen angels. They're going to come out of the UFO and present themselves to be the leader of the world, and people are going to love it. So he doesn't arrive through war, though, right? This man doesn't arrive through war. He arrives through the door that's been opened to him, with the whole world begging for him to come. So people are going to embrace him. People are going to love him. And people are going to say, hey, this man is our new savior. Forget about Christ. This man is our new Christ. He takes the place of Christ. And that's why he's called the Antichrist, the man of sin himself, who we know through the book of Revelation is empowered by the spirit of Satan. All right. So the way I see it is that he arrives through disclosure. And I need to tell you something, because most Christians are going to follow him too. It's not just Christians and non-Christians. No, the Bible is very clear. Most Christians will follow him. The text says that there's going to be a great falling away that will come first. So think about that. A great falling away. How could that happen? There's only one way that a great falling away could happen, in my opinion, and that is disclosure, because that's the only thing that makes sense. Some people might be saying, well, the great falling away, it could happen because they're going to say Darwinism's real. Well, they already said Darwinism is real, and people don't believe it. Some people might say, well, it doesn't mean disclosure because it could just mean that there's going to be some great scientific advancement that proves that we came from some primordial goo or something like that, that we are just evolution of bacteria. You know, that's all we are. Well, they've tried that. Again, they've tried it. It doesn't work. Nothing they can do works. They've tried it. They've been trying it. The only thing that will work, and if I have a blind spot here, please tell me, because this is just coming from me. I don't claim to see every angle. No, because this is just how I see things. And if I am missing something, let me know. Put it in the comments. Where's my blind spot? But the way I see it, the only way that this great falling away could happen is if UFOs come down and somebody comes out of them and says, we are the Savior. We are the ones who you need to follow. This old system of Jesus Christ, well, ignore him because he came from us. Follow us, not him. I believe that this is how the great falling away will happen. And I believe that most Christians are going to follow these entities because they're going to see it with their eyes. You can't see Christ with your eyes. You can't see the Holy Spirit with your eyes. You can't see God the Father. You have to have faith in him. And that's why we have to have faith, right? The Bible even says, blessed are the ones who believe and don't see, because we don't see, right? We just have faith that he's real. And I believe that our faith needs to be strong enough to withstand this assault that's about to happen with disclosure. It will show up looking so close to what we've been waiting for that most people aren't going to be able to tell the difference. Most people are going to be so enamored by this whole thing that they're going to willingly give up Christ, give up their belief, their faith, in exchange for this tangible, physical thing that they can feel, that they can touch, that they will have real world results immediately, because you better believe the Christians are the main targets here. The rest of the world, they don't have to be convinced. They don't have to be deceived. The rest of the world, they're going to willingly follow this man. The Christians are the ones that are going to be coaxed. The Christians are the ones who are the main target. Because once you get the majority of Christians to fall away from the faith, to give up their allegiance to Christ and give it to this guy, to this entity, to this being, to this fallen angel, to this, whatever you want to call him, well, then the rest of the plan will just fall right into place. Now, I want you to be honest with yourself. The pull that you feel around disclosure right now, this excitement, this hunger to finally know what's happening, guys, I feel it too. Who doesn't want to know? Finally, we're going to know what happened at Roswell. Well, we already know what happened at Roswell. We don't need them to tell us because we already know. But there is this sense of enchantment, right? There's this sense of curiosity that people are like, oh yeah, I want to know what happens. I want to know what the truth is. And like I said, I feel it too. But the text, the Bible itself, it describes this same pole, that the whole earth is going to follow this man, this same excitement, this same, energy for what, like this new revelation of humanity. People are going to just love it. And if you felt that, like I have, well, then you felt what the great deception is going to feel like, maybe just on a smaller scale. You know what it's going to feel like from the inside. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like hope. It feels like progress, and it feels like moving on to a next stage. That's by design, and that's purposeful. They want us to feel that way, and we must resist that feeling at all costs. We must resist it, and we must fight against it, because this isn't about how you feel. This is about the truth of Scripture, the truth of God, the truth of the Bible, and pulling at our feelings like that, that's why it works, because they're easily manipulated. If you know psychology and you know how a human brain works and functions and operates, well, then you know how easy it is to control people, especially in masses. The masses of people, they all follow each other. So all it takes is like a small percentage of people to start doing one thing, and then the rest will follow, because people, they follow each other. They don't think for themselves. There is a hive mind going on, and that's why you see all these psychological phenomenon, like when somebody's walking down the street and they see a line, well, a lot of times the person will stand in that line without even knowing what it's for. And there have been studies that show this is true, by the way. There was one study that showed they put a line of people outside of a bank in a city, just a fake line of people. The psychologists were trying to figure out, what people would do. So they put a line of people outside of a bank. And wouldn't you know it, but people walking by that bank, if that was their bank, they saw a line of people, they didn't know what it was there for. So what did they do? They stood in the line. They just stood in the line because other people were standing in the line. So that's what human psychology does. You want to be accepted by groups of people. You want to be accepted by the major groups of people, by the majority of people. You don't want to feel like an outsider, so you're going to do what other people are doing in order to fit in. But here's what the disclosure movement doesn't understand about this, right? The beautiful visitors, the aliens, the UFOs, the shining ones, they're not what's behind the door. They're just the bait, right? Yeah, sure, they are kind of behind the door, but what's really behind the door is far more sinister than that. Because you have the entities that they portray themselves to be. You have the seductive ones who are helpful. They're offering knowledge and wisdom and, peace and all that stuff. And that's what disclosure introduces to people. It's a friendly face. It's an evolution. It's a moving on. But what's behind that face is what's really important. Because what's behind that face is creatures, beings who are in open rebellion against the Creator God Yahweh, who are in open rebellion against Jesus Christ, who hate Jesus Christ, who hate all things holy, and who hate all things good. These are the same entities, mind you, that were behind Jeffrey Epstein. These are the same entities that were behind every horrible, atrocious thing that has ever happened in the history of the world. These beings were there. So on one hand, they present themselves to be these, benevolent, glowing beings that exude happiness and love and warmth and make you feel right with the world. But on the other hand, their true nature, which is hidden behind that facade, is death, destruction, all these terrible things. The most terrible things that have ever happened, that will happen, are because of them. These are demons. These are fallen angels. These are the spirits of the dead Nephilim. When the Nephilim died in the flood, well, their spirits had nowhere to go. So what did they do? They got stuck wandering the earth. These are the evil spirits. These are the possessing spirits. And in my opinion, these spirits, these evil spirits, are tied in directly with the disclosure movement. Now, there is a distinction between fallen angels and demons. There is a big distinction. They're not the same thing. So whenever this disclosure movement happens, the face of them will be the fallen angels, and behind them we'll have these armies, these legions of demons. So yes, disclosure is going to be the great deception. It will lead to a falling away, and it will lead to the eventual enslavement of all mankind, in my opinion. Disclosure is not something that people should be wishing for, because when it happens, things are going to be bad for some time. But that's all temporary, though, because the king will return and put an end to all of this mess, right? And the entities already know that. That's why that they have to deceive people, because they know that they don't stand a chance. And their goal is to try and defeat Christ at this war. But they're not going to defeat Christ. They can't defeat Christ. They're scared of Christ. They're weak and powerless, actually. And when they stand against Christ, they don't even stand a chance. Because these entities know that when he comes back, that's it. Their time is up. They're not going to prison. They're not going to get in trouble. They're going to be removed from the equation permanently. They're going to be killed. They're going to receive their second death, okay? These things are going to be just gone. That's it. Poof. So the next time somebody tells you that they want disclosure, that we need disclosure as a species, that all this secrecy around the topic needs to come to an end, it ends with the King of Kings. And when he arrives on this world, all evil, everything evil in the entire world will come to a stop.